Hello, I'm Regina Rowland, and I'm introducing you to SDG 10, Reducing Inequality. The main goal for SDG 10 is to reduce inequality within and among countries. So what does inequality mean? It refers to the phenomenon of unequal and/or unjust distribution of resources and opportunities among members of a given society. We know that it is systemic and deeply entrenched in various socioeconomic and political structures. That means that it is so deep that it might be out of our awareness and we're not even realizing that we're doing it. How do we measure inequality? So there's the Gini coefficient index that measures the extent to which the distribution of income among individuals or households within an economy deviates from a perfectly equal distribution. So that only measures one aspect of inequality, but there are many others. How do we reduce inequality? So we would need policies and laws to ensure equal pay, equal access to health, education, and protection, a progressive taxation system, and the end of tax havens. We would need to stop handouts to dirty fossil fuel companies. This has to do with climate justice. And to end child labor and violence against women and girls. Also to develop a transparent political process to empower everyone everywhere. And that's really an important aspect, again, because we need everybody to participate in contributing to these goals, or we're not going to make it as a whole. If there's inequality in the world, then not everybody can contribute. That's a major gap in our development. What is a framework that will help us to understand the dynamics of policy action on inclusive growth? So on the graphic here, you can see that there's 3 pillars that we're relying on. The first pillar has to do with investing in people and places left behind and providing equal opportunities. And you can see all the SDGs that belong to that pillar, or where contributions would make an impact. The second pillar has to do with supporting business dynamism and inclusive labor markets. Again, you can see the SDGs that have to do with that. And pillar 3 has to do with building efficient and responsive governments that make sure that pillar 1 and 2 can happen. And those 3 together create a platform for inclusive growth. And that then contributes to SDGs 8 and 10. There are 7 sub-goals or targets and 3 measures, so please go and check those out in detail. Please also go and read the report on Sustainability Development Goals for 2020 that shows you the status quo globally on this and other SDGs, and play with the tool that's provided in the European Statistics website, where you can compare different countries within Europe and their contribution and status quo of different aspects of inequalities. So what does it look like in Austria? We can see here that we're doing okay with all the targets here, except for a trend for gross and annual income adjusted for inflation. So that's a downward trend. That's not happening well enough. What are the main issues in Austria to solve? We definitely have an unequal distribution of wealth. That is a global issue. And the latest crisis that we went through or are still in it, the COVID crisis, has increased that gap. You know, surprisingly, through these hard times, the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, and that's just not working for us. We need more social mobility and socio-ecological infrastructure and more political participation in Austria, and taking Austria's responsibility for international affairs more seriously. That means we should be doing more to help all the other countries along to develop and evolve like we have. So when we think about contributions that organizations could do, We first want to look at the core purpose of this organization, the internal and external stakeholders, the impact that this SDG has on the organization, the costs and challenges that arise from that impact, and at the same time also the opportunities and benefits that are also present. So when we think of educational institutions, in terms of SDG 10, the task lies in raising awareness of the dynamics of inequalities and help students understand how inequality is created in the first place, how it is maintained and further deepened, globally and in their own countries and social layers, by the social structures and economic systems currently in place, and then to create momentum towards collaborative reinventing of these structures and systems. A concrete inward action could be to redesign the application policies for universities to provide equal opportunities, and an outward action could be, for instance, to collaborate with an organization called OEAD that offer a summer school for, this is actually a 3-week summer school for thinking about alternative economic and monetary systems. So that's really about developing alternative systems, how to finance the transformation and how finances should work around the globe in a more equal way. That's a summer school where like 100 students come together from all over the world, learning and thinking about these issues. And it's happening in Vienna, actually. Institutions could also work towards inclusive and equal education system changes, so that has to do with research and lobbying, and collaboratively increase international job opportunities at educational institutions, so websites and platforms that are co-hosted by several universities. What could towns, cities, and villages do? In terms of SDG 10, the task lies in actively participating in creating policies and other ways to reduce inequalities within their regions. A potential inward action could be to increase representation of women and other vulnerable groups among municipality employees. A potential outward action could be to collaborate with other towns to improve the socio-ecological infrastructure in the region, and to partner with social businesses to help generate job opportunities for vulnerable groups from that region. Organizations of all kinds, so for-profit and non-for-profit. Their core contribution for reaching SDG 10 is to minimize pay gaps within their own organization, to offer working conditions that are free of discrimination, to share possibly profits with their employees, and to invest in their continuing education, also to maintain a supply chain that follows these policies. A potential inward action could be to reduce, like I said, pay gaps and share profits with employees, to implement diversity and inclusion policy for equal representation and opportunities for all. An outward action could be to partner with civil society networks to provide education and entrepreneurial skills training to empower vulnerable groups, or to cooperate with other companies along the supply chain and within the industry to lobby for fair and equal chances and pay for all employees and people involved in that supply chain. Or to support community engagement to reduce inequalities within the organization's sphere of influence. Then the slide deck invites you to think about your own organization or an organization of your choice, and takes you to the same kind of reflective thinking and design of potential contributions. Further down the road, you're invited to reflect upon your learning about SDG 10 and how you might think about it now, as well as takes you to further resources to learn more. In the end, we'll ask you to join the SDG journey and to observe in your own environment under the SDG 10 umbrella for a week the topics of inequalities. So you might want to look for the most vulnerable groups: older persons, persons with disabilities, children, women, or migrant or refugees. And then to think about the long-term consequences of inequalities in the society. Thank you very much. This was it for SDG 10. I see you in another SDG.